You're listening to Sports Jam, recorded March 25th, 2012, Episode 30, The Fantastic Final Fatal Four.
I'm Chad Satera. This team busted my bracket, but Rick Pitino has them in the Final Four.
I'm Stephen Peffer. Could Atlanta be tomahawking their way to the World Series?
I'm Vince O'Connor. The surprise team in the East this year, the Washington Nationals.
And I'm Rob Steele. I guess Tebow was okay for Denver until God himself actually became a free agent. Yeah, somebody had to say it.
And then there were 4 teams left in the NCAA tournament. The Final Four is upon us. New Orleans, this coming weekend, you've got Ohio State versus Kansas, and then the Battle of the Bluegrass, as number 1 Kentucky will battle Louisville. Gentlemen, how are your brackets looking?
I got 3 of the 4 Final Four teams left, Chad. How about you?
I do too. Vince?
I got 3 of them.
I mean,
I had my brackets removed years ago. No, wait, that was braces.
I would honestly sit here and I'd tell you guys, I think we all had Kentucky, and I'm guessing we all had Kansas and Ohio State. The team we didn't have was Louisville.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Chad. You know what? I had Missouri over there, and they couldn't even get out of the first round. So,
I mean, this has been an interesting tournament, though. I mean, a lot of surprises in the first couple of rounds. A lot of people see their brackets blow up with Lehigh beating Duke and Norfolk State knocking off Missouri. You had Ohio knocking off Michigan. But when it all came down, and now we get to this point, the Final Four, you still have the cream of the crop, the Kentucky Wildcats, the number 1 overall seed. You have Ohio State, which a lot of people predicted them to get out of their bracket because of Syracuse issues with Melo being suspended for the tournament. Kansas, who, you know, it was questionable if they would get there, but UNC loses their point guard. Kansas makes it there. And then the Big East champion. Did we not learn anything last year about taking teams other than the Big East champions? I mean, come on. Louisville, a la Connecticut of last year, looking like a team that could give Kentucky a run for it. And let's preview that game. Kentucky versus Louisville, the premier of the 2 games, in my opinion. What a matchup this is. Rick Pitino and the Louisville Cardinal against John Calipari and the Kentucky Wildcats. I'm loving this game already, and we've got many days before it happens.
Yeah, it's big brother Kentucky versus little brother Louisville, and I think Louisville has something to prove. You know, they weren't ranked going into the tournament, but they won the Big East tournament. They're playing good ball. I just don't know though. Kentucky, they're looking. I think they can beat NBA teams right now.
You could definitely beat the New Jersey Nets.
I could beat the New Jersey Nets.
I don't know about that. I don't know if anybody can beat. I mean, think about it, though, guys. Kentucky is playing that good, but does not John Calipari always have those teams that get into the tournament, they get rolling, they get to a certain point, and then the fact that he has players that are inexperienced, he's got young freshmen that get to the Final Four, and then his coaching ability is usually what costs them championships, a la 2008 and the 38-1 Memphis Tigers. Just saying.
They look indestructible this year. I mean, what does Louisville have that can beat Kentucky? I mean, where do they win? The boards?
They've got momentum. That's what they have. They have momentum. And when you get a momentum in a tournament like this, that can carry you a long ways.
And Kentucky doesn't have momentum?
Arguably
they don't have
so,
momentum. Yeah. Louisville has big-time momentum going right now, from the Big East tournament all the way into the NCAAs. So I think it's going to be a good, close game. I still think Kentucky's going to come out the winner, but I do think it's going to be a very close game.
You know, this is Kentucky is 29-14 all-time against Louisville. These 2 teams did meet this year on December 31st, I guess you can't say this year, this season, where Kentucky won at home 69-62, and the big story there was Anthony Davis. 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 block shots. Louisville's going to have to figure out a way to not allow Anthony Davis to dominate this game. And honestly, a 7-point loss in Lexington before the change of the calendar year, I think Louisville has a really good shot at this one. I mean, they've got the coach. Rick Pitino is a mastermind when it comes to coaching in big game situations. Not saying that Kentucky, the school, the tradition with their 15th Final Four appearance is not something to sniff at, but Rick Pitino has led Louisville to the Final Four before, and this is yet another opportunity for him to show that he is a more dominant coach. He did it against his, I guess you can say, his student, Billy Donovan, in the Elite Eight game. Why can't he, in 6 days, figure out a game plan to knock off Kentucky? I'm like Vince. I have Kentucky winning, but I'm not as confident as a lot of people in the Big Blue Nation are.
I think Louisville can hang with it for a half, but Kentucky's up and down. I mean, they just take it at you. I mean, they scored 100 points against Indiana. I mean, they have great shooters. They have great defensive players. They're just the all-around package. I just don't think Louisville can hang with them. And yes, they have momentum, but I think Kentucky has just as much.
I mean,
I agree with part of what you're saying there, but let's not forget, the difference here to me is what Chad said about Calipari and about his coaching ability and having those young kids. You got Rick Pitino, who's even taken Kentucky to the Final Four when he was a coach there. Not only that, he went
in 96.
He went to the Final Four when he was with Providence. He went to the Final Four with Louisville. Come on. He's a great coach. He'll go down. He'll be in the Hall of Fame of coaching. There's absolutely no doubt about it. You can't overlook the fact that he's got those kids playing great basketball at the best time in the world. That is in the NCAA tournament. So I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot closer than what you think it is.
The other close game that could happen are the Ohio State Buckeyes, who got out of the East region at 31-7, the Big Ten regular season co-champions against the Big 12 regular season champions. And notice I say the regular season because there's only one tournament champion left in this tournament, and that's Louisville. But Kansas, who played a spectacular game on Sunday, watching that game, the first half, up and down, back and forth. They were hitting everything from midcourt to underneath the basket. I think both them and North Carolina shot the ball, I think it was 75% in the first half. And then they slowed the tempo down, got in and completely played a different style game in the second half, which only Kansas and a Bill Self team can do, and shut down North Carolina to reach the Final Four once again. Kansas, Ohio State, gentlemen, this is going to be a good game too.
I agree.
And it's also, go ahead.
It's going to be a good conversation between the two of you. There we go. Come on.
No, I agree. I mean, Kansas has great guard play. They got some good guys on the board, but Sullinger for Ohio State, I think he's the key, and he has to have a big game. I mean, like he's had to have all season for Ohio State to win. But, like in my bracket, I like Kansas to come out with it. And this is the close game you guys are talking about. This is going to be the close game.
Well, there's no doubt both of these teams have momentum. Earlier in the season, in December, Kansas beat Ohio State at Kansas without Sullinger playing. They beat them by 11. So you've got another rematch here in the semifinals, and you have Sullinger, who's also playing great basketball right now. So I don't think it's going to be an 11-point game, but I don't think Ohio State's going to fall down here. I've got Ohio State going to the championship game.
Yeah, when you look at this matchup, you've got to think, if a team is at full strength and has all their pieces put together, you've got to give them a slight edge. Ohio State was not at full strength when they went to Kansas, when they went to Lawrence, and they played there. They had Sullinger missing. They have him now. He is a beast underneath. If you remember last year, and I want to do this, Ohio State was the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament going into last year. It's because they had all the pieces together. I mean, 1 year removed without missing anybody of significance, Ohio State is in the Final Four. A year later than what they were supposed to. They're not coming here to New Orleans to just play basketball. They're coming here to win. And yes, you can say that about all 4 teams. And yes, it's going to be a cliche. We're here to win the game. We're not just here for the show in New Orleans. Ohio State is that team on a mission. I expect to see Ohio State and Kentucky for the national title on Monday night, April 2nd. It's going to be, Why not? If their football team
Of
can't
course,
win a
of
national
course.
championship, their basketball team's got to. Because I know that's where the Snickers coming from, Mr. Peffer.
Yeah, it is. I mean, of course you're going to pick Ohio State, Homer. But look, Kansas beat Ohio State by 11 in Kansas without Sullinger. Is he 12 points?
He's a
Is he 12 points?
He's
Absolutely.
probably 15. Neutral
Against
site too. Neutral site.
Against the good Kansas team who won their conference.
Well,
with Missouri
and Ohio State
and
won their conference too.
I'm just saying.
So am I.
It's going to be a close game, but Kentucky, Kansas, final two, like I have in my bracket.
And Vince?
Kentucky and Ohio State. That's what I see.
All right. It should be an interesting Final Four. Hey, we're previewing the Final Four, but now we got to get Rob involved. Let's throw out the first pitch. It's the National League preview with Rob and Wild Pitch.
All right, Chad, so you want to start in the East, huh?
Yeah, let's start in the East. And the team that everybody
The
expects
East?
to win, Philadelphia. Start with them.
Wrong. Philadelphia is hurt. Right now, that Ryan Howard is going to be out at least until the beginning of May. I actually see this going longer than that. I think that they're holding something back with Ryan Howard and that it's worse than they want everyone to know. Chase Utley is not as good as he wants to be, and he's out for a little while. I mean, I know it's still spring training, but he's hurt. I don't have Philly winning the East this year.
I agree with that.
Which I know is... I actually have... And this is where it's still going to be the tightest of all of the National League divisions. I have Atlanta coming out on top, barely on top.
Again, and who do you have in second?
In second, actually, you know what? I'm going to hold off on second for just a minute. There's a reason, though.
So okay, hold on. I'm going to stop you right now. You have Steven's favorite choke artist, the Atlanta Braves.
I didn't say they were winning the World Series.
You said they were
going to
winning
win,
the
baby.
division.
They
Come
will.
on.
They're going to win.
What were they?
The
see.
Eastern I'm sorry,
9 and 18
Eastern
in
Division.
September.
It doesn't matter. They had a young Freddie Freeman, young Jason Hayward. They're the key. They're gonna be better, right? Rob, back me up.
Tommy Hansen's coming back from his concussion.
I'm gonna throw you guys a curveball. I'm going to tell you who's going to win the East, and it's not going to be either one of those teams. The winner in the East this year is going to be the Washington Nationals. You heard it here first. I'm telling you right now. Huh?
You know what?
I'm telling you.
I actually, they are not actually my surprise team of the National League, but they are a close second for my surprise team. I think they're going to be competing. I think it's actually going to be next year before they win the division, though.
Next year before
not with the rotation they have, and not with all the pickups that they've got. They are loaded, guys. Have you taken a look at this team?
Yes, I have. Wow. They are a very good team, and that's the thing with predicting at the beginning of the year. I think Washington is going to need one more year of seasoning.
Yes.
To make sure that Strasburg is back from his surgery. They're not going to be calling up Bryce Harper until June or July.
I don't like that move.
Just to make sure that he's ready. I think once he gets up and gets some big league time under his belt, which is going to be next year, that is when you're going to see Washington take over the National League East.
Well, I think the big surprise there is the pickup that I don't think a whole lot of people, it flew way under the radar, and that's when they picked up Gio Gonzalez from the Oakland A's. And I'm going to tell you,
that was one of the guys I couldn't remember last week. Yeah, that was
won
a big
31 games in the last 2 years in Oakland. And I've seen him pitch. He can throw.
Yeah.
You got Jordan Zimmerman added to that, and all you have left in that rotation is John Lannon and Ching-Ming Wang. I mean, I'm telling you, these guys are loaded in the rotation.
It's not – well, my thing with them is it's not the rotation I'm worried about. It's their offense, which is still got a bunch of very young players that I just need a little bit of seasoning. Just a little bit,
Jason Worth
and
they'll
get
that
there.
Contract. I mean,
no.
You want to throw question marks? Exactly. I mean, he has one great year and he gets this big contract, a la Scott Mitchell in football. Well, we're not going to talk football because we're talking baseball right now. But yeah, I still think Vince needs a drug test. I still think the Nationals are not ready yet. But, Philadelphia, you don't win a pennant in April or May. You win it in June, July, August, September. Mainly in September when it comes to teams that choke. Atlanta proved last year they could not do it in September. And Philadelphia continues to be the premier team in the National League. When you have a 1-2 punch and even a 3 punch when you have Hamels added to Holiday and Cliff Lee, you've got to look at Philadelphia, and you cannot look past Philadelphia when you think of
I'm
National
not saying
League.
you're looking
past them
looking
to win
past
the division.
them.
That's where I'm getting at it. But and I'm not even a Philadelphia fan. I'm a Mets fan, and we're not talking about how crappy that team is. Okay?
Yeah, God help.
Yeah, God help me, because
We'll get to Philadelphia in just a minute. Let's go over to the Central, which I think is a very bizarre division this year.
Ooh, I agree with that.
Because the top two teams, St. Louis and Milwaukee, lost the two best first basemen in the National League in Pujols and Fielder. And they're still going to be 1-2 in the division.
No. Disagree. I disagree with that.
With my surprise team of Pittsburgh being a very close third.
Yeah,
there's the surprise
I agree with
team.
that.
How come you're not asking Rob to take a drug test?
No, because you know what? Pittsburgh's
had its seasoning.
Pittsburgh was great until they got on ESPN last year.
Until they lost it was the bad call.
It was the instant replay game.
Yes, by the bad call against the Braves. That
was when their season jumped the shark and they tanked. This year, I think they've got enough seasoning. What?
Well, that was good. You jumped the shark in the tank. Great show. ABC Friday night.
Thank you.
Watch it all the time.
They have a good mix of young players that have their seasoning. I think the reason, if Washington was in the Central Division, I could actually see them winning the Central, but I can't see them winning the East.
Oh, come on now. You're telling me that you think that the Pirates have a little bit more seasoning than the Washington Nationals do?
Just enough to compete more in the weaker Central Division than Washington does to compete in the very strong National League East. Because they play within their own division more.
Come on, you play the Astros and Cubs. Yeah, they've got better.
Right.
How come we're not talking about Cincinnati here? Where do you have Cincinnati in this list?
I have Cincinnati just below Pittsburgh because they just lost their closer, and there is now an argument going on between Dusty Baker and ownership about where to put Aroldis Chapman. Baker wants to keep him in the bullpen, and everyone else wants him to be a starting pitcher, which is where I think everyone else on the planet thinks he should be a starting pitcher. And that's where they've been grooming him. But just a couple days ago, they announced that, Ryan Madsen out for the year, going to have Tommy John surgery, and that's created a cog in their bullpen that it's not working as well as they'd like.
Well, let's not forget also, there is a clog there, and I'm sure Dusty Baker will work that out with ownership. But let's not forget, the leading candidate to take the closer role there is Sean Marshall. He's a huge left-handed pitcher. He's 6'7", and he has a career ERA of 2.42 in the Great American Ballpark, and that's huge because that's a bandbox. There's a lot of home runs hit out of that field,
which is great for Joey Votto and Jay Bruce and everybody on the lineup, but it's also great for everyone coming in.
Very true.
But at the same time, all of these divisions are really weird this year.
Well, you talked
but I think St. Louis. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say. Well, I was actually going to switch divisions, but you're going back to St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
We won't switch divisions yet.
Okay, sorry. I was saying St. Louis actually had the reason I'm putting them up top is because they had a surplus of outfielders last year that were not bad outfielders. Now Pujols is gone. You can move Berkman back to first base, which is where he was back in Houston, and it's not going to create as big a hole as it could be. Similarly, in Milwaukee, they signed Aramis Ramirez technically to play third, but they have a guy named Matt Latos? I'm probably mispronouncing his name, who is a big up-and-coming third base prospect. Move Ramirez over to third, and again, you're not really going to be missing the Prince Fielder effect that they would be if they didn't have anyone to replace him. That's why I still have St. Louis and Milwaukee up at the top of the division.
What about the...
That makes sense, Vince?
Well, no. You can say anything for it to make sense. I just don't think that's going to happen with the Cardinals this year. I think you're losing Pujols, and if you look, bringing in Carlos Beltran's not the answer there. Absolutely not. He's on the back end of his career. And
you're missing one thing, too, guys. The reason why St. Louis won the World Series. One reason. Yes.
A starting pitcher.
Thank you, Stephen. You are alive.
Chris Carpenter's not he's out for the season, isn't he?
No, he's out for a little while, but they are bringing I just had his name, and Stephen said something and lost it entirely. His name went off with Tommy Laporta. Thanks, Steve. Adam Wainwright is coming back, who I think is going to end up being better than Carpenter was.
Oh, okay. Wasn't Carpenter hurt a lot Tommy John surgery. Come on. That guys, I'm telling you, they don't have a pitching staff there.
They won it without Wainwright last year, and they're now going to do it without Carpenter this year. To me, it doesn't matter when you lose a Hall of Fame manager in Tony La Russa. That makes a big difference.
So I got these guys coming in third place.
But this is still the weakest division in baseball. Back before McGuire and Sosa took off in '98, they were considered the Comedy Central. I think it's gone back to that. Who is their standout player in this division?
Well, are you overlooking the fact that Joey Votto from Cincinnati is in that division?
And that's it.
Yeah, good luck. Name another one. A.J. Burnett's in the division now.
Matt Holliday is unfortunately on the tail end of his career too. I think there is not.
Let's go to the West, guys, because
Let's go to the West.
Yeah, let's go to the West, because honestly, 2 years ago, before San Francisco made a run into the World Series and won the title, I always thought the West was the weakest divisions of them all. You have San Diego, the Dads. Oh wait, the Padres. You've got the ownership in Los Angeles that is absolute crap. You've got an Arizona team who was, they won the World Series in '01, but really didn't think of anything. And then the San Francisco Giant team, who all of a sudden had the young pitching staff that resembled and still resembles the early 1990 Atlanta Braves. And this could be the last year of the San Francisco, I guess, the gunslingers in San Francisco.
And that's actually who I've got picked to win the West this year, just over Arizona. And I think Colorado's going to put in a good year. But Los Angeles, their ownership... Everyone does, usually until August when they go, wait, we're still here, and run for the pennant and not get there. San Diego is not going to be the worst team in the National League. That's
the Mets.
That's the Mets. But
thank you very much.
They are not going to. I don't think they're going to compete very well in the West. I don't think they compete very well in the Central.
Do they have any good play?
The Dodgers. You've got Matt Kemp with the Dodgers. You've got Clayton Kershaw, who I think are both going to have good years. I don't think they're going to have as good years. Kemp has put up his career year.
Monster numbers last year.
324, 39.
The numbers he had last year were career years for most people. I'd love to see him put up more numbers. I can't see him doing it.
His first hit, he's going to put up another number, just so you know.
There's not...
It's baseball. It's baseball.
He doesn't have enough protection in that lineup to keep him from being turned into the next Barry Bonds. Oh, look, it's Kemp. Walk him. There's nothing to protect him in the lineup.
Well, I mean, but then you go. So you're basically taking this division and saying it's Arizona and San Francisco.
Right.
So how much of, I guess, oomph do you put on the pitching of San Francisco? And at the same time, keep in mind, why aren't you putting the same emphasis on the pitching of Philadelphia? Because it's about the same.
Because San Francisco's in a weaker division. The East is that strong. I think both Eastern divisions, American League and National League, are the strongest in their leagues. So I think that San Francisco, with the addition of Buster Posey and bear with me on this, the highly underrated Melky Cabrera. No,
you're right. He's very highly underrated.
Steven's laughing, but do you know who led the American League in Omar last year? Not Omar, which is the whole MVP thing. But Omer, before it gets adjusted, that was Melky Cabrera.
Wow.
I remember Melky in Atlanta. I was very excited about him.
Oh, well, didn't say he had a good time in Atlanta. San Francisco's a better
Melky
hitting
too.
ballpark, though.
I put Milky on my cereal every morning. Oh, it's Melky, not Milky. Oh, sorry. I guess it's just something that I couldn't get over. Anyway,
Apparently.
Continue. Wait, but, okay, Arizona, Kurt Gibson, great manager. Surprisingly great manager.
Surprisingly, I was very surprised by him, pleasantly surprised by him last year. But I don't know that their pitching is going to be as good as it was last year. Putting Ian Kennedy in the same boat with Clayton Kershaw. Last year, I think they snuck up on people, and people were surprised by them. You can't do that this year because people know about them. Hard to sneak up on them if people go, oh, look, it's Clayton Kershaw. I see him already. He can't really sneak up on me now.
So 21 wins for Ian Kennedy. That's because he snuck up on people?
I don't think it's going to happen this year. People are going to be better prepared for him.
Okay, what about their offense, though? When you think of Arizona, you got Justin Upton. I mean, he had a breakout year last year. I mean,
He did.
You say they're not going to sneak up on him, but most of the time, once these players reach all-star level in the major league, it's a reason, and the reason is because they're good, and Upton's good, very good.
The thing is, we don't. Oh, not arguing that, but until it's done on a more regular basis. Right now, Upton has really had the one good year. Until he does it multiple years, I can't count on him to do it.
So he's like Greg Jeffries, right? He had one good year.
He could be. How do you know he's not?
Because his name's not Greg Jeffries. He's your favorite
I can't
player.
put that in the show. Yeah.
Guess that means we're never going to have Greg Jeffries on as a guest, are we?
We can. I just won't say anything.
Nice.
I am counting him as being right now not being an all-star. I'm not expecting all-star numbers. I'm expecting well above average, but not necessarily all-star numbers from him.
All right, so there you have it. Now
I put it. Now for the
predictions. Let's go.
Here's and yes, I'll beat this. It's going to be a cluster. I have done all the numbers. I have Atlanta, St. Louis, and San Francisco winning their divisions. I have Milwaukee actually being the first wild card, and just to be an absolute nightmare, Philly, Miami, and Pittsburgh I have all being tied for the last wild card spot.
That would be awesome. That would be the best way to end a season ever.
I think they rushed
this.
They rushed the new playoff format, and I'm looking at these numbers, and that's what I'm coming up with, and it's hideous. It's going to throw the whole thing off. The World Series will end up being sometime in mid-December.
It was in November a couple of years ago. Stephen, who do you got going on with your divisions and wild cards?
Atlanta East, Cincinnati Reds in the Central, D-backs in the West. I have Phillies for the first wild card, and the Pirates going to sneak in with the second one.
Vince?
I'll start out west. I like Arizona out west to win the division. I like Cincinnati to win the Central. I like Washington to win the East. And I like Philadelphia as a wild card. And I like Atlanta as a wild card.
So it's almost like the American League with 3 teams from the East. I'm going to tell you this, guys. I've got Philadelphia. I've got Cincinnati. I've got San Francisco. My wild cards, they choked last year, but they would have made it if there was 5 teams. So I'm going to take Atlanta. And you know that, like Rob, that 5th and final wild card spot, jeez, I really don't know. So I'm going to take
Houston.
I almost sat there and said the Mets, the Astros, the Rockies. The fifth wild card I think is going to be Arizona. Who's going to the World Series? Do I know? I know nothing.
One team that we haven't talked about is Miami.
And obviously,
because I think who hasn't talked about them in the off season? Oh, I have them among the cluster. But I don't think they're going to actually make the playoffs this year. The East is too strong to have this many teams in it. And, of course, next year there's going to be realignment, so who knows where these teams are going to end up.
They could be.
Atlanta could be in the West again.
And that wouldn't surprise me with Bud Selig. World Series, who's going there for the National League, gentlemen?
Just to be surprising, San Francisco.
The Braves.
Cincinnati Reds.
I'm going to take San Francisco, even though I harped on Philadelphia.
Sports Jam will be back next week with another knockout episode. But until then,
Follow us on Twitter at TR Sports Jam, friend us on Facebook, or email us at therealsportsjam@gmail.com.
thank you to our sponsor, the Danny Nagy Band. Until next week, Sports Jam, we're out.